Well, it all started when Trevor and I were dating. Um, there was a lot of conversations about that. Trevor's adopted, so it's a very soft spot for both of us, and an important factor, I think, in our relationship.
When we had our last baby, Kira, who was kind of a surprise, the first thing our other kids said when we told them we were going to have a baby was, "Does that mean we're not going to adopt anymore?" So that was always kind of on the back burner there. But recently, back in, actually I think it was early November, we had, I told Shane I wanted to write a book. And the book is coming out here in a couple weeks. It's called Boundless. And the whole book is about a journey through faith, a journey of faith. And literally a week later after that conversation, we had received news that someone who was very dear to us in Haiti had passed away. It was a little baby we were supporting, and we got to see personally and spent some time with even in Haiti. And she had passed away, and we had always had a special place in our heart for her. And when that happened, it just kind of threw the adoption talk we had on the back burner for quite a while back into the forefront. And we had talked about it and thought about it and just kept praying and turning it over and thought, I'm writing a book about faith, and what better timing for a faith journey. And I really felt God leading me and leading her to the same. And just what better time for a faith journey than to go and
Now's the time
proceed
to
it.
adopt. We currently are contracted with an agency already that has been wonderful thus far. And we originally decided that our hearts were kind of calling us a little bit more towards the Columbia area. And we had contacted this agency that dealt with a couple different countries. One of them was Colombia. And we talked to her about it, and she had asked us, are you open, or would you even consider Ukraine? And it wasn't one of those things that we had thought about yet, so we took a couple days to pray about it. And in the meantime, we did a lot of research that really, really opened up our hearts. And we definitely called her back and said, we really do feel like we would consider Ukraine. So we currently are contracted and committed to the Ukraine country. Now that we are committed and we are in the beginning portion of our home study process, we are open to siblings. And the unique thing about Ukraine, once you do a lot of research with Ukraine and you really study the dynamics of the poverty and the problems, there's a tremendous amount of street orphans that are living under the streets in Ukraine, and part of the country is under war, and there's just a lot of stuff going on over there right now. And one of the unique things about Ukraine is we won't be paired with our future children. We won't know who they are until we're actually over there in Ukraine. So that portion of the adoption process is really a huge step of faith.
Yeah, the whole thing really is a step of faith, because when you look at our family dynamic, we already have 4 children. So one of the questions that probably should be asked is, are we crazy? And the answer is, obviously, if you knew us, you would know that we were, but crazy in a good way, meaning that we did, something like this does not frighten us as far as more children or a sibling group with ours. It actually would energize us to the point that, I look at our oldest is 11. And when we were doing our research and really thinking, because at the time I was kind of feeling maybe a little bit more of a tug toward adopting from Colombia. But as we started to do some of our work, one of the things we encountered was really a subculture in Ukraine called street children. And it was boys anywhere from probably ages 8 through well beyond age 11, which is where our boy is, living completely on their own, in sewers, fending for themselves with food and everything else. And it really wasn't long after that our youngest son, who is 3, was sitting on my lap, and he was playing one day, and he's making all sorts of noises, and I don't know where he gets his vivid imagination at all. But he was sitting on my lap, and he was just so very happy and healthy. And Shane and I have always been involved with missions. We've always had very much a missions-minded heart. And it really bothered me on a very large, I'll say macro level, that somewhere across the world there are kids who don't have that opportunity to sit on a father's lap and be happy and healthy and play and do everything there. So one of the things that we had really wrestled with was, we know we can't save the world, but we can at least help save a few. And if you have the ability to do something about a cause and choose not to do something about that cause, you're doing something wrong. And we had really thought, we looked at our family dynamic, and even with 4 kids, I think the one sentiment that we had was, even still, this is incomplete. And feeling the longing to go toward even something else, and to pursue this, to make a difference in literally a sibling group life.
And I think our mission trips and seeing the other side of poverty and the lack of opportunity, and seeing just how that impacts, especially a child's life, you are changing their life story. And for us, that's important. And we look at our family dynamic, and would our oldest be a good brother? Yes, he would. Would our youngest be willing to accept more children into our family as brother and sister? And yes, they would. So for us, that's the important factor, as we look at our family, and are we willing as a whole to go on this journey together? And we prayed about it, and the answer was yes. So that's the journey we're on.
And one of the unique things for me was one of these many snowy Ohio days. We were getting the kids loaded up in our van, and we hadn't talked too much to the kids at this point about it. Our oldest, and that was it. But somewhere, our oldest daughter, Brielle, had asked something of Shanna, and they had just a brief talk about orphans, and we were trying to explain that there are some kids who don't have moms and dads, and that was it. And it was a distant conversation from this moment. But just randomly, I had been praying, God, if this is something you want us to pursue, just continue to speak to me, continue to be clear, and lead us down that road. She gets in the van, and she looks at me about as serious and emotional as a 5.5-year-old can get, which they can get pretty emotional, by the way. But she looks at me and she says, Dad, those kids who don't have moms and dads, and she literally had tears in her eyes. She said, can we help them? Can we bring them home? And I just thought, okay, this is the direction we're headed. And she just was very passionate about it. And our oldest, again, was he's always been leaning that way. But no, it was just a very much confirming thing. But one lesson that I have learned throughout the course of my writing is stop writing books. Every time I ever work on a book, we end up with more kids. So when I wrote my first novel, we ended up expecting
Brielle.
Cohen and Brielle. And then the second novel I had written, Kira, our youngest daughter, comes along. We start writing this process, and a few weeks into it, all the doors for adoption open up. So, I go through and I count the seats in our van, and then I start to wonder how many more books I'm able to write, because I don't know how many more kids we can fit. But we'll find a way.
We currently are in the process of our home study. We started that paperwork about a week and a half ago. So we have a lot of paperwork to still go through. And right now we're looking forward and trying to come up with some really unique ways to raise funds, because adoption is expensive, and God has put a sibling group on our heart. So, those fees for the additional children that we may end up with, there are additional fees. There is travel expenses that go along with it. And again, the financial end of it, as much as it is, it's not enough to deter us from moving forward and saying, God's really calling us to do this. If it's meant to be, He will put all of the pieces together. So yeah, we're definitely going to start working on fundraising very soon.
Yeah, when you're called by faith to step out and to do something like money, or a sibling group, and not just the idea of a sibling group, that has zero concern, at least to me, in there. It's the idea of the unknown. Ukrainian law, you don't know who these children are going to be until you're literally there with them in the Ukraine. You have no pictures, no biographies, no past history, nothing.
No
until
idea
you
if it's
sit
going to
there.
be a older boy or older girl, or
But
how that dynamic.
what faith does in the process is faith helps you look through that. Okay, I see that, but I'm looking. That is not an obstacle. That truly is just something I look through. The finances of this might want to give you an anxiety attack. But you know what? you serve a limitless God, you've got to have a limitless faith. And that's been something that I've been talking a lot about through the book, and I've been spending a lot of time there in the concept of faith. And it's like, you know what? This is where we feel God calling us to do. These aren't hurdles. They're truly nothing, except just when you have the lens of faith, you see through those obstacles very clearly.
So we just want to invite everyone to be a part of our journey, and we want this to be special, and we want this to be an example of faith, and we want people to follow along on our faith adoption journey.
And being that it's in Ukraine, I might watch Rocky IV a couple more times, but that has nothing to do with it at all, I promise.